Welcome back to another episode of the Next Level Minds podcast. Today we're going to be sitting down with a good friend of mine, Zack Krupp. He was one of the first people I met when I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And when him and I first met, we talked a lot on different business objectives. And him and I also share the same entrepreneurial dreams. So throughout this time, we've actually had a chance to just keep staying in touch through various networking events, different meetings, different, hangouts here and there. And I've really had the chance to really pick Zack's brain. And based on all our conversations, I think he would be the perfect guest for the topic that I want to talk about today, which is massive action plans. And also, Zack's going to take you through some adversities that he's going through currently. And I'm really excited about the value that Zack's going to add just with talking with him for 5, 10, 15 minutes. I instantly kind of changed my mindset. And so, as we like to say here at Next Level Minds, your mindset is the greatest weapon for the battle of success. And Zack can really walk you through that journey. And once again, we're going to be talking about massive action plans and expect Zack to take you kind of through his journey and through various adversity he's thinking. And really just thank you for listening to this episode of the Next Level Minds podcast. Zack, I'm super stoked to have you out here today. I know you're going to just add a ton of value, so thanks for just coming out here and meeting me to be on the Next Level Minds podcast. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, bro. It's a pleasure to be here. Funny fact, I'm actually only your second podcast, so I know you think I'm super experienced. I do Facebook Lives all the time, but getting in front, I'm just brand new here, man. So it's a huge pleasure to be that you're taking your time to speak with me about what I know. So thanks.
Yeah, definitely. I know each time we get a beer or get some dinner, I always leave just filled with a new life because you're always just filled with so much ambition. So, what do you want all the listeners to know about you? I know you're always filled with a lot of next level things.
Yeah, so I'm crazy, man. I have like a million different hustles. I'm really into like personal development. I'm a big nut on that. I guess real quick, a little bit about me, right? So we met in Charlotte, obviously. I'm from Chicago. I'm 25. I graduated from Illinois State. I did marketing professional sales there and then came to Charlotte. I guess quick story, the way I got my job is I won a contest. So I got really into podcasts and personal development. We can touch on that a little bit more with what happened to me at college. But I got into podcasts, started listening to this podcast, and it was called Sell or Die. And the host of Sell or Die, his name's Jeffrey Gitomer, who I work for. He said, let us know how you have a yes attitude. So he had a contest from this book he wrote. He said, record a video of yourself and tell us how it gave you a yes attitude. So I recorded this video of myself, and long story short, I won the contest. It was like valued at $30,000. They flew me out to Charlotte. I got 2 days of personal mentoring from this sales guru. He's the king of sales. They gave me all these books, and I got to that's where I was on my first podcast, was Sell or Die. So funny enough, that's how I transitioned that's how I got my first job out of college. And that's actually how I came from Chicago to Charlotte, and that's how we got introduced. So that's a little bit about me, but yeah, going back to like the hustles and what do I do? I dabble in a lot of different stuff. Where I'm currently at and like what I think I'm trying to make myself known for, or what I'm really trying to establish myself as being known for, is number one is like massive action plans. So I have like so many ideas that go into my head. I always try to figure out how I can do certain things to get to a level that no one's reached, right? That's part of it. And what goes into that is like also trying to reach the unreachable. Like those are my two main things, massive action plans. And in doing that, I can use these to like reach anyone in the world. So in the entrepreneur space, right, I've been able to connect with guys like Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, I guess Jordan Belfort, The Wolf on Wall Street, Andy Frisella, Jeffrey Gitomer, Jack Canfield, tons of those guys, all from like these massive action plans. So that's a little bit about it. And my main slogan too is like anything is possible. So that's kind of what I teach and where I want to go with that. And I hope to later down the line, release a book, be an author, and go into the speaking space. So this past year I've got to speak, get on stage a little bit with my job and sales, and it's been great, man. Like I love the whole personal development space, just gets me fired up. Like I'm super passionate about it.
Yeah, definitely. When did you first get into all the personal development stage?
Yeah, so I'm full of stories, by the way. That's one thing that I'm gonna tell like whoever's listening. I have a story for everything. So I know we're going to transition a little bit later here, but how it happened is actually crazy. So I've always been like a young hustler. At a young age, I had all these hustles. Like second grade, I brought home $200 selling Pokemon cards. Like I was only 8 years old, had $200, right? I did lemonade, hat business, flipping things online on eBay, all these things. But actually when I was in college, I was going for sales and marketing, but I kind of lost sight of what my goal was. I kind of got distracted from the path. I've always had this huge goal, like I'm gonna be a billionaire by 40 years old. I just never knew how I'd do it, and I kind of lost sight in college. So I was just being a college kid, you know, having fun, hanging with my buddies.
Yep.
And I love to play basketball, and I was playing an intramural basketball league, and I actually got a concussion. And that concussion led to post-concussion syndrome, which is basically 6 months of doing nothing. So if you've ever had a concussion, it's having a concussion, how you feel on day 1 through 10, but feel that way for 6 months straight. So it was horrible, right? Like I had migraines, I couldn't drink, I couldn't listen to music, I couldn't, you know, go out to the bars, the things that college kids do. I couldn't do TV, phone, like nothing, bro. So what I did is that kind of not having anything else to do, that draw me towards books. I always had this goal, it was in my mind, like I want to read 2 books a year, I want to read 3 books a year, which seems crazy now because I read like 4 a month.
Yeah.
But that's how what got me to personal development. I just went to the library that summer when I came home from school. I checked out 6 books, sales and personal development, and I just started digging. And the cool thing about books is when you get in there, they give you ideas, and the ideas just take you from A to B to C. And long story short, one book led to the next, led me to this guy's Instagram, to this podcast, and now I'm like a honing station for all things personal development, right? Like I'm a junkie about it. I listen to 3 hours of personal development a day. I read 30 minutes every day. So I'm like a nut on this. But yeah, that's how I got introduced to it, and that's how it kind of corrected me to where I am now.
Yeah. Let me ask you this though, like with Jeffrey, right? This competition you won, the yes attitude, right? So was your mindset going into it? Was it like, all right, I want to find a job in an unorthodox way? Or were you like, because most kids, like myself, had a couple internships, slid right into a job, kind of boring. But like, were you like, hey, I want to do something crazy? Or like, what was your mindset of that?
That's a great question. It's funny how it all worked out, because now I feel like experiencing this, I feel like I tell my friends when they're trying to get their jobs, like there's so many massive action plans that you could take to get jobs. You don't have to go that traditional way. But at the time, no, not at all.
Yeah.
I was talking to, my goal actually before I ended up with this job, didn't have Charlotte on my sights at all, is I want to work for the Chicago Bulls. So I'm a huge Bulls fan. I'm like, hey, I can do ticket sales. That's sales. I'll get free tickets to the game. I think the benefits were like you get free lunch every day. So that's what I wanted to do. And I was putting all of my attention into that. I was doing massive action plans to work for the Bulls. This just kind of happened, and they weren't going to hire me or anything. I just came out and we hit it off. And one thing led to another. And when it came time to settle down and see where I was going to go, I had the Bulls job that was really knocking the door on, and like 4 other offers, but things I just wasn't passionate about. And I found like this, although it wasn't planned, was the best option, because it allowed me to learn from someone who's written 15 best-selling books, done 2,500 seminars, in the Speaker Hall of Fame. Like that's what I want to be, and that's what I want to do. So I'm like, if I can learn from someone like this is like an opportunity I can't pass up. So I just packed my bags. I didn't know anyone and came down, but it's been a smooth transition so far. So.
Yeah. Would you say that was one of your first massive action plans, or?
Dang, that's a good question. I think they picked up significantly after that.
Yeah.
Like since I've worked there, I've like 20 times done the amount of plans and side hustles since before then. But that was probably my first main successful one, honestly, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think location has a stance to do with massive action plans? The reason why I asked that is because I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. Great spot, but the culture's there. It's kind of more like slower beach vibe. And like coming to Charlotte, I've been able to grow significantly more. So do you think where you're located has an effect on your massive action plan, or is that just all you?
So you probably wouldn't expect this answer, but I'm going to say no.
Yeah?
I'm not, because I think it doesn't matter where you live because of the internet. So I would say 90% of my massive action plans have been correlated through email, phone, and Instagram DMs. And you can set it up there, and then if it's a real massive action plan, you can you can fly anywhere today, right? For $200, you go on Skip Lag, get a cheap ticket. You can fly to anywhere in the world. So really, I think a massive action plan starts in your head, right? Like that's where it starts, and then you can just take it and do it anywhere. So.
Yeah. So what, in your opinion, is, for those who don't know, like, what is a massive action plan?
Okay, so this is, dude, great questions, by the way. This is why I wanted to be on the Next Level Minds podcast, because you're asking me next level questions. Like that's a great question. And now I just forgot it. So run it by me one more time.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. You know, I hit you with so many great questions, right? So what is, in your opinion, a massive action plan for those who don't know?
Yeah, so the way I think about it is, dumb it down for a second, right? Mm-hmm. So I've always liked to do things big. Like I never like to do, that's why when you say like, oh, regular jobs, like I want to have like the crazy job, the different job, or you say like, I think about like birthday parties. So my mom always says I'm a really good gift giver. So when I think about things like this, like how can I do this bigger? I don't just want to get you one balloon. I want to get you 100 balloons for your birthday, because who's ever got you 100 balloons, right? Like you feel so happy when you get something like that. Or if I get you a birthday cake, I'm not just going to get you the simple cake. I'm going to get you a 10-story cake. So a massive action plan, the reason I like these is because, for example, I'm in the self-help space and personal development. So the commonality with the self-help space is that there's people who are gurus and, you could say superstars, and what do they all have in common? They're teaching things, and hundreds of thousands of people are trying to ask them questions and get some of their time. So you're fighting at the bottom with all these other people to get someone's time. Same thing in life. If you're trying to apply for a job right out of college, there's 1,000 applicants. What makes you special? What makes you that one? So massive action plans are essentially like different plans that I've come up with that I can apply to any different niche, whether it's getting a job or getting in touch with my favorite NBA player or getting in touch with, my favorite entrepreneur, is coming up with a plan that no one's ever done. So like one example is, I'll bring up the Jen Selter example if that's cool with you. Okay. So this is kind of off the track, but it relates. So if you guys know Jen Selter, she's this fitness model in New York City. Okay, she's got 13 million followers. She's super into personal development. She's independent, hustler, and she's one of the prettiest girls, right? So I was going to New York City for this Christmas, and I decided I wanted to meet her. So I'm like, okay, this girl's got 20,000 likes on every picture, 500 comments. How am I going to set myself apart? So I started making comments that were different, and I could go deeper into that. I actually in the midst of finishing a book that's all about that. But I left all different comments that were different and stood out. But what I did is I got her attention with those comments, and then I created this like movement. It was called 25 Days Till. And it represented 25 days until I come to New York to see everything Christmas. And my purpose of this meeting was to try to hang out with Jen Selter. Like, I'm like, let's meet up, let's get ice cream, like let's go to Rockefeller Center, Bryant Park. That was my plan. And so what I did is I did an Instagram story every single day, giving her a reason why she should meet with me. So I said like, 25 days till, they're all mostly videos. There was a few pictures, but it was simple things. And all these things were like, it would be personalized to her, things that only like, I would do research to find out more about her and personalized messages that no one could send her. I did it 25 days in a row. And long story short, I did not get to hang out with Jen Selter because she got her wisdom teeth pulled. Maybe that's why, maybe it's not why, but she knows who I am. She responded to my DM. I got her sister's attention, who's her roommate. Yeah. So her roommate DM'd me personally and said like, I see all your messages, like how old are you? You seem super mature for your age. So it worked. Yeah. It's a way that you can infiltrate into the unreachable areas. So that was a very long, drawn-out answer. And I hope do you think I gave like a good analysis, or do you want me to break it down?
No, yeah, it sounds like you just need to find like your main differentiator on how to accomplish like a certain goal or plan that you have, and not just taking the easy road out, right? Like, did you ever have the mindset of being like, all right, maybe I should go with somebody who has 1 million followers, not 10 million? Like,
see, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So is that like, I'm going massive with this one?
So I just thought about it, and this is a better way to define it in a little amount of words. If you want to do a massive action plan, do the polar opposite of what everyone else does. So if you want to get a job, everyone is going on Indeed.com, or everyone is submitting their application. They're trying to make their resume perfect. That's not how I would get a job today. I would try to DM the CEO and give them 5 value ideas on how I can improve their business. They're going to be so blown away. They're going to call me.
Oh, yeah.
So that's do the exact opposite in whatever you're doing, and that do it to a 10x level. That was what I would define as a massive action plan.
Yeah. What would you say to people out there who like want to make their first massive action plan? Like, oh, this sounds pretty cool. Like, where do you even start with something like that?
Yeah, so
Is it like going on a like writing down in a journal, or like can you do it in your living room? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so that's kind of funny you asked that, is because I feel like that's like a missing opportunity in the or like a missing. There is no like training on this. Like, where do you start a massive action plan? You won't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
I know I didn't come up with it because lots of people do massive action plans, but I was actually thinking about this. If someone wanted to know, like, I would be willing to help personally, but this was an idea of mine. Like, in the future, it would be really good. Like, in part of the book, not to sidetrack, I talk about examples of massive action plans and how you can do one, but there is no cookie cutter blueprint. Like, you need someone to guide you and give you an idea, but I think it would be easy for you to kind of come up with your own just by getting an idea or two. So I don't think there's a set way.
What would be like, if somebody's listening that's been in their career for like 3 or 4 years, like what would be a massive action plan with somebody like that? Like,
so do they want to like get out of their job?
Let's say it was sales or something like that. Would it be reach 10 times sales growth than they did, or like?
Okay, so we'll just say, let's just switch a little bit. Let's say they're in IT right now. They're making $55,000 a year. They've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years, and they have bigger ambitions. They want to go on that big vacation, get a car, and they're like, shoot, how can I get to 100K? My degree got me IT stuff. I'm in IT. So maybe they want to get into sales, leave IT and get into sales. Well, they could stay in IT and just hope like everyone else that they'll get a raise or get a promotion and make it. But reality is, like, they're the worker bee, right? They're just, the worker bee doesn't really get rewarded that much. Unfortunately, it's just a truth. That's why you want to be the CEO or take another route and be an entrepreneur. So if they want to get into sales, a massive action plan could be, okay, I'm going to research and find out who the best sales trainers in the world are. I'm going to find out the top 10 best sales trainers. I'm going to write out I'm going to listen. Maybe top sales trainers usually have like a podcast or they've done interviews because they're an influencer, right? So I'm going to research about them. I'm going to listen to their podcast. I'm going to find out personal things about these sales influencers. Then I'm going to write a handwritten letter to these people and give them a small gift, maybe under $20. Maybe they say in their show, I'm a sucker for chocolate cake. So you send them a chocolate cake, a handwritten letter saying, my name's John and I do XYZ, but internally I have a passion. I'm a hard worker. I don't know a lot about sales, but I'm a willing learner and I want to learn. And you send that out not just to one, but to 10 different people, right? To give yourself as many opportunities as possible. That's one way. And then let's say that could just be one step of it. If you want to 10x this plan, like that could be your whole plan if you're on a base level, but you're like, all right, I sent it out to all 10. I didn't hear anything back. Well, now you can take it even further. You could make a personal YouTube video for each influencer on why you should get the job, giving them that second exposure of who you are and what you do. And then you could even take it even a step further and say, here's 3 value adds, three ideas I have for your business, or 3 things that I think I could implement in my role. That's only could be a segment. As massive as you want to make it, you can. The tougher the situation is to reach, or the further away the person is, you probably got to up it until it works. But you can try something and always add to it.
Yeah. What do you think your biggest like setback that you've had with the massive action plan, or anything recently that you might have gone through?
So I don't think there's really a setback with massive action plans. Sometimes massive action plans don't work out. That's why if you're making them, you make the next one. But setback wise, it's funny you asked that. I'm actually in like the midst of a major setback.
Wow.
Right now. Like it's not rock bottom. Rock bottom was actually when I got that concussion at ISU. I went through a lot of struggle. Yeah. I slept on a couch for 30 days. I developed traveling anxiety because my apartment had mold in it. I couldn't find anywhere to live. I couldn't even go to my apartment during the day. When I was in class, I had to walk around outside and sleep on this couch. So that was the rock bottom. But what happened with that concussion is it actually gave me some trouble returning. I said I couldn't do screen time and all that, so I had to go through physical therapy and bounce back from that post-concussion syndrome. So when you talk about problems right now, I'm actually experiencing some kind of like lingering effects of that I did to myself from working too hard. So I like to do a lot of side projects. My job requires 7 hours a day of screen time. And long story short, I did too much screen time and I started getting these headaches again. And they took me away from the screen. So for me, to give you even more perspective, I've been out of my job currently, like I haven't been to work in 80 days.
Wow.
So because of this head problem, because it's such a lingering problem, and I was perfectly healthy for a year and a half. I did this to myself, and I'm trying to shift out of this gear.
Yeah.
But currently, like, talking about all these good things, it's good to stay positive in that, but I've been stuck like in this zone of how can I get better? Like it's taking me away from finishing up my book that I was going to release 2 months ago. I was 3 days away from releasing what I think was my biggest project ever.
Yeah, wow.
Stopped, cut back. I do social media every single day. Instagram, I'm always on Instagram doing stories, videos, content. Stopped in my tracks. Wow. People are texting me saying, bro, did you die? Like, are you okay? Dead serious.
Died, honestly.
2 people texted me in the last 5 days and said they want to see if I was alive. Because I'm on Instagram, social media every single day, you know, spreading what I know, trying to give value. And I've been set back. And the even funniest part about all this is I said I've been out of work for 80 days. 3 months ago exactly, I was on the big island of Hawaii, standing on a beach, recording a video, talking about massive momentum, saying, at this point in my life, I'm experiencing the most momentum I've ever experienced in my life. I just had done like $100,000 in sales a few months before at my job. I had a guy who was reaching out to me about becoming a writer and publisher for his startup. I had 2 podcasts lined up. Like I was feeling the effects of, you know, taking the action steps every single day and felt like I was ready to just take off. And then I come back from Hawaii, I get back to work, and 3 days later, I'm here. So it's been like a wild ride, but I feel like, you know, in this setback, it's for a good reason. And part of that is like one thing I've learned to be, this is 100% factual, by the way. There is no doubt about this. Like I've done it enough times. My life has been full of ups and downs. But the one thing, like there's actually a few, but the one thing that I know to be super true is like my highest highs always follow my lowest lows. So even though I should be discouraged right now, like that I've been out of work, that all these things are stopped, I understand that this happened to me for a reason. Every time I had a big setback, it led to my biggest setup. So what I tell people now is like, bro, if you're going through a hard time, if you're struggling, get excited, get happy, because something amazing is about to happen to you. And going back to that old story when I was at college, my belief is I'm like a spiritual guy, right? So I'm a believer in God and faith, and actually I'm trying to get a lot closer to that as a Christian, if you don't mind me mentioning that. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get closer to. And it's funny, at the time when I was suffering at ISU, here were my thoughts. I'm at college, it's supposed to be the best time of my life. I have my roommates, you know, there's pretty girls everywhere, right? It's supposed to be the best time of your life. And here I am sleeping on a couch, you know, having like panic attacks in my car from anxiety, you know, having to have an apartment full of mold, having this concussion, headaches, can't do any of this stuff. But what that did, that rock bottom, all that pain, all that struggle, that everything is, it was a test. And it set me up to move to Charlotte, work for one of the best you know, sales trainers in the world, meet all these top entrepreneurs, get involved, write a book. It evolved me. It was my lowest low, it was my rock bottom, but I skyrocketed up after. So I believe that happened because like God was trying to realign me in life. And if it didn't happen, I never would have found books and I never would have got to where I was going. So that first major thing set me up to discover books and redirect my course. It was like I was going the wrong way, and I feel like God like said, no, I want you to go here. And so now I was doing really good. I felt all this momentum, and it happened to me again. You know, I'm being set back, haven't been to work in 80 days. So my belief is, my personal belief on this is that the reason this happened this time is because God saw I was doing well, but my belief is that I could do a lot better if I was putting God first. And what's happened to me since I've been pulled back is I've, you know, come back to faith, where now I'm listening to the Joel Osteen podcast, which I highly recommend. If you ever have worry in your life or you're fearing things, listen to that. It's like mental soothing for you. That was huge for me. I got involved in Elevation Church here. Stephen Furtick, he's huge. He's like one of the best pastors. He's 20 minutes away in Charlotte. So I started going to church and I started reading my Bible. Yeah. So my belief is like, I'm set, I'm okay, I'm gonna be fine. This is setting me up for something bigger. I just can't see it yet. But when it happens, whether it's 1 month, 3 months, 1 year from now, I'm gonna look back and be like, that's why it happened to me. It was setting me up for this. Can I believe that I was upset? Can I believe I was discouraged? And now look at me. I'm speaking on stage in front of 100,000 people, or now I don't know what it's gonna be yet. Yeah. I don't know, but I know why it happened. And that's my belief. So I'm just trying to get better. But that's what I'm in the midst of right now as we speak.
Yeah. Man, that really made me think of something, actually. You said, like, your lowest lows can be followed by your highest highs, right?
Yes. Your highest highs always follow your lowest lows.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes so much sense, because I remember, and then once you have the low, right, you go back up to the high.
It's like the stock market, bro.
Yeah,
it goes up, down. There might be a bear market, might be a bull market, depending after your lowest lower. Everyone's buying, everyone's selling. It can be applied to that.
Yeah, man, that makes sense, because I remember my like junior year in college, I was like doing all right before, and then like my parents went through some financial trouble, had to move from Charleston. I was like almost failing some of my classes at a moment. I ran completely out of money. I was literally giving plasma to like buy food.
Typical college thing.
Yeah, and like attempt to take my girlfriend out at the time through plasma money. And then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, I just like kept trucking, spent some time in the Word, just spent some time developing my mindset. And then like I got a great job during college, started making some more money, started pulling my grades up, actually graduated in honors, and then found this great job that I'm working at now. So it was like, I had that super low point where I was angry, pissed off, had all these good things happen. And then now I was like, okay, now I'm like on a high right now. Hopefully I'll stay there, probably drop down, but like, bull and bear market, right? So.
Right, exactly. And dude, I'm just actually going to flip it on you for a second, because I want to edify you, right? Like the reason we're sitting down and having this conversation is because when I met you, I gave you some insight. I knew a few things that you didn't know that were maybe helpful, but like you're killing in what you're doing, right? Like you're 2 years younger than me. You're in your job. You call me up, ask me about this. Like you're getting these meetings. You're setting up these big clients. You're starting your own podcast. I know you got a huge project you're working on. So like, you're doing all these things, and you talked about how you had all this struggle, and maybe for someone else who's having struggle out there who's like, man, I'm at my rock bottom, or I'm just kind of tired of where I am and I want to be somewhere else. You didn't have a concussion. You didn't have this major thing. So for you, did you just like fight through it? Like when you said you just kept doing the right things, like you said you didn't have money, you didn't have, you had the bad grades. Like did you get a tutor? Just give people maybe a little bit of your perspective, dude, because like you're a stud too. Like people could learn from, your experience that you just spoke of.
Yeah, so I thought of like what I really wanted in life at the moment and in the future. And I was like, okay, where I'm at right now is like not the path that's going to take me where I want or where I want to be. So I was like, okay, like the reason I was like messed up in my classes is because in high school I did extremely bad. I didn't take above algebra 2, and I was taking calculus 2, and I've never like done any of that. So I was like, man, this is so hard. So I like hired a tutor. I was like, I got to do this. And then I just did everything I could to find like a great job. And we went back to like planting seeds, seeking opportunity, looking at different visions. And then finally like one thing led to another, met this guy, finally met a guy that hooked me up with a great job. And then eventually was like, okay, I had a goal and I wrote it on my bulletin board of like, find a great job by January 15th. And, everyone was like, well, I'll just wait till I graduate. And I was like, no, I'm going to get a job like 5 months before I graduate. Yeah. So I had the job and I signed for it like January 11th, I think. So like
that's crazy,
setting up what you really want and then saying, all right, master action plan, like how am I going to get there? Kind of step-by-step process. That's really what got me through that. So
that is awesome, bro. Yeah. That's great insight. And I think even too, like, we could chat about the end if you want, but even just talking about how you wrote it down, you set a date to it and it came true, like that power of visualization and just like seeing it and making it happen, or setting a goal and achieving it, like true, man. Anyone who sets the goals achieves them. Anyone who visualizes does it. So
yeah. So I know before we finish up, like just, what would you say, like how does that process look for you? Like setting a goal, a date, achieving it. Like, we can go into the whole vision wall in like a completely different episode, because we could probably make a whole episode out of
Okay,
this.
yeah, we probably could.
But like from like a short condensed version, like can you kind of map that out for everyone?
On like goal setting?
Yeah, goal setting, time, date.
Yeah,
setting,
so there's a lot of good little pieces of personal development, like little habits or little things that you can do to make you a lot more successful. And just to break down some tips for goal setting that I know works, that listening from thousands of hours of audio, you kind of hear the same patterns over and over. If you study successful people, which I do, I study successful habits in people, you see, some of them have a little bit outliers, a few things are different, but generally speaking, they all kind of merge together with the same core things. So for setting goals, number one, write it down. Mm-hmm. Always write down your goal, whether it's on paper, whether it's on a whiteboard, whatever, if maybe it's a picture, the vision wall thing, if you have a picture goal, write it down. Make sure you look at it every day, twice a day. So I actually have my own goals. I know you do as well. So I have 2 note cards that I taped up to kind of like bootleg laminate them so they don't get all worn down.
Yeah.
But it's 2 note cards, and I wrote down my goals, and the first thing I do when I wake up is I read it out loud. So I read it out. You could just view it, but it's more powerful when you say it. So if you have a goal, where are we right now, right, to review? We write our goals down.
Yeah.
We make sure we look at them and say them out loud daily, preferably twice a day, in the morning and the night, 3 times. It's like you're killing it, right?
Yeah.
But you want to do that. And when you read them and you hear them, there's actually an added effect to that. When your ears are hearing what's saying, like your words have power. And I even told you, this is a whole nother tangent, that like what you say can make physical things in your body change, right? But your words have power. So reading it and saying it out loud, what you're doing is you're putting out a conscious thought. And the goal is, if you say this over and over out loud, if you read it over and over, you're going to change that conscious thought and you're going to shift it to your subconscious mind. And when you do that, when it's in your subconscious mind, your mind thinks about it all day, every day. When you're sleeping, when you're at work, it's like, it's not even, you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And then the final thing, what was the final thing I had for that? There was one last thing that's really important about goals. Put a date to them. So make them very, very specific.
Yeah.
Speak about them in present tense, like not, I want to be a millionaire when I'm 30 years old, like I will be a millionaire when I'm 30 years old, or, something more broken down with that. But do that, say it specifically and put a date to it. You have to put a date. Otherwise, it's not really a goal. It's like a wish.
Yeah.
Right? So put a specific date, like by 40 or by, December 25th, 2020. So reviewing those would be some key things. Those are some things that I do and that other people have done that show results time after time. Like they're proven.
Yeah.
Just do that. You set your goals, try it and see what happens. Just like with what you did in getting that job.
What are some things you're working on right now?
So I talked about like projects, right? Like I always have so many. I feel like my mind is like full of just this makes me sound like a crazy person, right? I always say like all I do is listen to personal development, so my mind is filled with a million ideas. So I try to make a video and maybe one leads to the other. But the biggest thing I'm working on right now, which I'm like the most excited I've ever been about anything in my life.
Yeah.
Anything I've ever been in my life is this ebook. Nice. So it's called Social Media Influencer Mastery, and it's a 45-page ebook that I wrote. I told you I was 3 days away from releasing it. I just had to do a final round of edits, figure out a few things on my website. And what the book teaches you about is how to connect and engage online with any influence in the world. So earlier, one of the things I said is that I like to be known for reaching the unreachable people. So what I talk about in this book is how using primarily Instagram and DMs and comments, how you can build relationships with the people that you want to reach in your life. Different ways how you can take massive action plans, how frequently you need to message them, all different variations. I break down in 45 pages. There's actually a $100 giveaway in there for people who share. So keep a lookout. When I announce it, if you share it on your stories, I'm gonna give away $100. And I personally believe that I'm doing something that no one's done before. So this is like my pride and joy. I feel like I'm releasing a book with 45 pages of information that some of the top people in the world know, but for some reason they're not sharing.
Yeah.
So I'm either gonna mess up the whole industry or I'm gonna provide so much value that, I don't know, man. Like, and the worst part is too, is that I really condensed this down to 45 pages. So I was talking to a buddy, and I think actually my goal is to launch this ebook. I'm gonna give it away 100% for free. first of all. Like, this is the most valuable information I have in my life and give away for free. But the goal is to have a spin-off and actually expand it into a whole book and make that my first book that I'll obviously charge for then. But I think this is like, it's something I'm very, very psyched about. Very excited about.
That's awesome. Where can everyone connect with you?
Yeah, so the best way, like I said, I'm in the midst of a struggle, and that requires no screen time right now. So appreciate the follows. If you've hit me up on social media, the best possible way is normally Instagram. Normally I'm on Instagram every day, all the time. That's where you can keep up with everything I'm working on. So that's the best place. So you can find me Instagram. You can type in Zack Krupp, ZackKrupp, or my actual Instagram handle is Krupp Sanity. So KruppSanity. And then, or if you want to connect with me on all my other social medias, I have my own website, simply ZackKrupp.com. You can find me there. I have my links for my YouTube. I have a bunch of different sections. So I have vlogs, lots of videos I do. I have my 16 publications and articles I've written with other advice there. I talk about, I'm going to give some free credit tips on there. My ebook is going to be primarily accessed from ZackKrupp.com. But if you ever want to like reach out, or maybe you want to ask about a massive action plan, I'm all about giving value. So if like someone hears your podcast and they're like, hey, like I want to learn how to do this and this, I won't be able to respond right away, but when I'm back, shoot me a DM anytime, and I would love to help, man. I'm all about like, how can I help? Yeah. So for anyone who wants help, hit me up on Instagram.
Dude, that's such I think you can probably count on like 15 hands how many times I've randomly called you, hey man, what should I do here? What should I do here? And you've always just helped me out.
I enjoy it. Like, that's what I want to do, you know? I want to be like someone who can just provide massive value. And if you do anything in life, when you give massive value, like you can make a career out of it.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. Well, thanks again for coming on the podcast and taking time out of your day. I really appreciate you being on here.
Absolutely, man. The honor was mine. I'm gonna be this can be my credibility, right? Like one day I'll be like, dude, I was on the Next Level Minds podcast. When you blow up, I'm gonna be so excited to say that. So absolute pleasure, and anytime, man, anything you need, I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, nice, man. Thank you.
No problem.
Really had a great time talking with Zack today about massive action plans and some adversities that he's currently facing. You know, Zack is one of the greatest people I know. He always knows how to lay down the law when it comes to talking about mindset. And just some main points I got out of it was just make sure to create a massive action plan for various goals you have in mind. And if you're going through a low, it's only going to get better. And if you're going through a high, you might follow a low after that. So always just be prepared and recognize that when you're going through a low, that momentum's just going to start coming back. And I know for me, when I'm going through a low, I always like to just continue viewing everything as an opportunity. I know I touched on this a little bit in this episode, but when my parents moved from Charleston, obviously it was very sad. That's where I grew up. And now I look at it as a massive opportunity because I was able to get out of my hometown now and grow. So really just looking at everything, whether you're in a low place or a high place, looking at it as an opportunity and creating a massive action plan around your goals. Once again, I was super excited to sit down with Zack today. As we like to say here at the Next Level Minds podcast, your mindset is the greatest weapon for the battle of success, and Zack really brought that heat today. As I mentioned, thank you again for tuning in to this episode. Follow me on Instagram at ChrisChapChap. You can follow Zack, as I mentioned, at Krupp Sanity. And it would mean the world to me if you can share this podcast, put it on your story, send me a DM, share it with 5 of your closest friends, share it with your mom, your dad, your grandma, whoever. Just please share it. It would really help me out. And shoot me a message if you want to hear anything different, or if you have any comments on how we've been doing things around here at Next Level Minds. I'm always open to feedback. Once again, please share. And my Instagram